your boy bleeds. Everybody listen up. Let's get it. I'm tryna put money in your pocket. That crypto wallet. That bing bada bing ching ching big profit. Even when the market's sideways, I'm looking for ways to get paid. I'm checking my coins around breakfast, then again around bedtime. Bet this, it's not financial advice, but I'm always right. 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 I'm always right.
Can you hear me now? What the fuck just happened there? I can lip read. Stefan's in the house. Derek Hine is in the house. What's more? Well, good morning to everybody. You should be able to hear me right now. It looks like I don't know exactly what happened right there. In the default right there, that's going to be the speakers right there. All right, now, Jesus Christ. So I restarted my computer this morning, or it restarted overnight, and when it restarted overnight, it reset all of the driver settings to default instead of to all of my devices. And by the way, every time I minimize my recording window, my face ends up like this right afterwards. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, I don't know what the latest Microsoft update was, but I mean, gross. All right, so let's get into the top 5. We're going to start with, and I'm going to record this for later so that you guys, and I'm not going to notify you of this, but we're going to do the top 5 at 5. So we'll see what happens, right? All right, guys, here we go. This is your top 5 news articles that apply to cryptocurrency for the date of January 30th of 2026. Number 1, market crash and liquidations. Crypto assets are in free fall with Bitcoin dropping 6% to test 81,000. Ethereum has slid down to 2,700. Broader market has shed 5 to 6%. Over $1.7 billion in positions were liquidated, mostly longs, one of the largest leverage flushes recently, triggered by risk-off sentiment from tech sell-offs, potential U.S. government shutdown fears, and rotation into traditional safe havens like gold and silver. Keep that in mind, because we're going to get to that even in just a minute, because a few hours later, gold, silver, stocks, everything started to dip. As a matter of fact, to be clear, in the last 24 hours, gold and silver have shed more than crypto's entire market cap in the last few hours. So something is happening right now. And when I say something is happening, what I usually mean is I think that when that happens, that usually means that Bitcoin is ready for a rally. And a lot of people have been seeing that Bitcoin's ready for a rally. So we're going to see whether or not that actually happens or not. But guess what? The other piece to it, and this is, I feel bad for people sometimes when I see this, but Bitcoin ETF saw huge outflows yesterday, $817 million for Bitcoin alone. And it was not just Bitcoin, it was every single indices in crypto. It was Bitcoin had massive outflow, Ethereum had massive outflow, Solana had massive outflow, and XRP had massive outflow. And by the way, we've never seen massive outflows, or at best we've seen one outflow from Solana, and then we've seen one outflow from XRP. Well, yesterday we saw it all happening in real time. Now, by the way, while we're talking about this, the market is starting to recover just a little bit. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see some kind of rise as we see some inflows today. And this is an expiry day because it's a Friday. Number 3, Binance has converted $1 billion of its secure asset fund for users to Bitcoin. Amid the market rout and some criticism, Binance announced plan to shift its entire $1 billion SAFU from stablecoin into Bitcoin over the next 30 days with regular audits planned. This bold move signals confidence in Bitcoin despite short-term pain. Guys, let me tell you exactly what you're hearing right now. If Binance thought that their $1 billion was not safe, they would not be doing this. They recognize and they feel like, and by the way, this is an investment. They are making an investment into their SAFU fund. They're taking and they're announcing that they're converting $1 billion in stablecoin into $1 billion in Bitcoin. That is the literal reason for a rally. When you've got some massive buyer stepping in, especially one whose job is entrusted to them to manage some of your funds and some of your ability in the future to do whatever crypto thing they feel like the money's going to be there. So this is a big move. I think this is a big, bold move, and it's a signal of confidence that they believe that Bitcoin is about to start ripping again. Next up, Senate advances crypto market structure bill. Yesterday, the Ag Committee voted to advance key digital asset legislation, expanding CFT oversight while offering protection for DeFi developers. Now, if you remember, that was the big problem in the previous one, that it really just effectively killed DeFi. So this comes after delays and pushbacks representing progress on U.S. regulatory clarity. Now, not only did that happen, but last night there was a late night meeting between Democrats and the White House, and it appears that the government shutdown could be averted, that Donald Trump seems to have, or feels like they have enough votes right now to avoid another government shutdown. Now, one of the problems has been the funding of Homeland Security and the funding of ICE. And look, you guys saw what happened to Alex Pretty. That's not a great look, and it's an opportunistic moment for Democrats to step in and demand a cancellation of some of the funding for one of the projects that they don't like. I don't know why they don't. Honestly, I don't know why they don't like it. You don't have a right to be here. Border enforcement actually should be a very important thing for people, especially if you're American. I mean, even if you are somebody who's just not, even if you don't like the Trump administration, like, you should at least be able to admit that we shouldn't have a wide open border where people just walk right through and everything is just fine. Now, you might be a hippie and you might be like, man, it's not how you do it, bro. Everything should just be free, man. Shut up. No. If you make a law, you enforce that law. So, but that's because of that problem, you're probably going to see some kind of capitulation on DHS. You're probably going to see the termination of Kristi Noem. That's what I think is going to end up happening. I think Donald Trump is going to fire her and say, look, you cannot be this person. So And by the way, she did everything that she did is at his discretion. So I don't think that, I think that really because he's not going to be held accountable for it, that he's going to hold her accountable for it. And then boom, that's going to be the end of that. And that'll give the Democrats what they want. They'll vote for continuation and we'll move on. And that will lead to a spike in prices for a lot of different things. And then finally, this is the big one of the day, I think, and that is that Kevin Warsh is now the nominee as the next Fed chair for Donald Trump. And if you go look, there are a lot of different things that Kevin Warsh has said about Bitcoin. In 2018, Kevin Warsh said, and he was 35 years old, by the way, at that time, and he was the youngest Fed governor in history at 35 years old. He said that Bitcoin is not money, which some Bitcoin maxis are going to be like, oh, that's you can't put somebody like that. Well, that's not exactly entirely true. He said that Bitcoin is not money, but it's a store of value, and that he doesn't see it as a transactable form of money. And guess what? He was right. He doesn't see it as a transactable form of money, but he sees it as a store of value, a digital asset akin to gold and silver. This is the person that we want in charge. This is the adult in the room, if you will. Also, it should be noted that his nomination would start around May, confirmation process that is, and he is looking to do massive rate cuts. That's the part that matters, not his opinion on Bitcoin. So we do like the fact that he is bullish on Bitcoin, and we hope that it stays that way. And we hope that he doesn't become a problem. The important part, though, is that we need Fed rate cuts in order to drive market prices higher. So we have 3 months now, 4 months now, and within a half year, we're going to end up seeing Kevin Warsh, most likely, as the next Fed chair. And that's going to be really good for all markets. He is going to start cutting massively on the rates. And here's the thing I think is going to happen, by the way. Let me give you full disclosure about what I think is going to happen right there. And I appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. What I think he's going to end up doing most probably is I think he's going to do a large rate cut. I think he's going to do a 75 to 100 basis point cut, just like that. And then he's going to sit back and see what the market absorbs and how the market looks after that happens. So good opportunity. It just feels like this feels like something different. Like this feels like somebody who understands. And by the way, if he cuts it 100 basis points in that boom, it just does that in the first time, that's going to be amazing. And the reason that it's going to be amazing is not because it does anything like super special other than, add steroids, if you will, to the market. Then he's going to sit back. He's a responsible guy, okay? We should say that. He's a responsible guy. He's going to sit back. He's going to watch how the market develops, and he's going to react to the market developments as opposed to just deciding to restrict the policy. So we'll see what happens there. Derek Hines says that's Bitcoin only, but he's not in charge. So who gives a shit? Why does that even matter? The reason that I say why does that even matter is because if it doesn't matter what the Fed thinks of Bitcoin or crypto. What matters is their ability to govern monetary policy. So I don't care what he really thinks of Bitcoin. I just think that it's good that he's positive about it. What he thinks of, what Paul Atkins thinks of crypto matters to me. Paul Atkins, the SEC guy, that's the one that matters to me. Or CFTC head, and I forget what his name is right now. And I just watched, son of a bitch, I just watched him on stage a few minutes ago. Kevin Haslett? No, that's not, son of a bitch. Now it's going to drive me crazy. CFTC chairman is Michael Selig. That's his name. So the CFTC chair, Michael Selig, is the guy. And I watched the thing with him yesterday, and he was really, really, really talking about him. By the way, now that we're done with most of that, let's talk about what's going on with the rest of the market. I'm going to show you guys something that I made. Why? Because I'm awesome. But I'm going to show you exactly what October 10 when Wintermute sold off on the market and stabbed the world in the back, I'm going to show you some indices, and then you can let me know what you think in the comments section, and it is right here. Okay, so you see that first line up here at the top with the purple and the blue right there? That's cryptocurrency. Now, for full disclosure, if you want to see it with a bar pattern, that's it on a bar pattern, if that makes you more comfortable. So that's Bitcoin. This is what's happened to the markets since all of this stuff happened. So we're going to take that, and we're going to take our global liquidity. Let me see if it pops up on the screen here. Do we get any global liquidity off of that? No, we're not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to show it to you that way while I'm doing a compare. I would have to do that. Well, you know what? Let's see. Liquidity services, global. Let's do M2. Might actually be able to throw this on here. Global M2. Okay, so that looks good. U.S. money supply. Let's throw the money supply for the U.S. on here. See what it looks like. Okay, so it's just the line going up. So, nah, we don't want that one. We'll remove that one. Okay. Anyway, we'll look at that in just a moment. Here's what you can see. Let's zoom around here. So since October 10, that is when we had the massive sell-off from Wintermute, and you can see that day right here. Okay, that's when Wintermute did what they did. Since then, this is what we've seen in the crypto market. Now, as a comparison, this blue line, this is silver. This is what silver's done since that day. Look what happened right over here. Crypto got flushed. The rest of the market got put on steroids. Again, steroids again. This next line right here, this is gold. So that's crazy. Like, we saw this massive move for silver. We saw this massive move for gold. Now, more mature markets are a little bit different, but you can see it all right here. This one is NASDAQ, and this one is Dow Jones. So what you've seen right now is, since this date right here, you've seen massive run-up on the right there to 78% off of 65. You've seen a 15% ride up for NASDAQ. You've seen a 14% rise in the Dow Jones, while crypto has dipped from this 372 to about a huge, let's just say bigly. Let's just say bigly. So that gives you kind of an idea of where the market is going and how important and imperative it was that Wintermute screwed everything up. So, damn you, Wintermute. You could have had everything, you bitch. All right, so we're going to remove these now, finally. Now we're going to get back to the normalcy of the trade market, and we're going to look and see, like, where are we fitting in here right now? And guys, it's not looking good. Like, look, you guys know that I try to stay bullish. There is not much bullish about this, except as of today. I'm zooming out. I'm zooming out as far as I can here. We're going back to 2024. If I were to look at it from, say, this standpoint, say from right here to right here, that looks like, you know, that's not bad. What it means, though, is that we would be bouncing off of support again in this range right here, and we're a little bit higher than we were before. Now, again, I'm zooming out here, and we want a low, and each time it gets a little bit higher, each time it gets a little bit higher, each time it gets a little bit higher. Now, if we were to, and boom, boom, zoom in just a little bit right here and say, well, what is it that we see? Whoops. In this little range right here, we zoom in, and basically we found another floor. So the question is, what's going to happen on this floor? Are we going to break through this floor and fall down ever so much more, or are we going to have a strong bounce off of it? So that's the question right now, and then this is our range, just basically 80,500. right there. And by the way, I gave you a buy at 92,400. So if you're wondering if I know shit, I don't, obviously. Let's move that down just a little bit more right there. Right into the 80,500 range seems to be like right where it is. There's really just no support right there, though. The most likely scenario here is a fall to about 74,000 and then 72,000. So all those guys who should have been wrong and could have been wrong, they were not wrong. They were not wrong. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy, just crazy. Anyway, so what can we glean from this, and what are we looking at from this? Well, let's do this. Let's go with what's the next move. And the next move would be all the way over here. You look at that support and resistance right there. There's a nice little trend line right there at 93,000. Remember, a couple days ago, I told you that the liquidity for this market is currently sitting, or the CME futures gap is sitting at 93,000. Guess what? Now it's all playing out. Maybe this is the flush that we were looking for to give them a spark to get back up into that range. Now, if this is not, if in fact this is not, and we still see a continuation of downside momentum, don't forget, by the way, this is because of Wintermute. All of this that's happening right now is because of that move right there from Wintermute. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are you blaming Wintermute for what's happening? And the answer to that is actually very simple. When Wintermute sold off, and they sold off something in the neighborhood of $8 billion worth of crypto, what they did is they pulled and sucked the liquidity out of the market. Once they did that, and not all of it, of course, but they pulled out enough that everybody who thought they were a millionaire suddenly was not a millionaire. They catastrophically destroyed a lot of these different cryptos, okay? Now, because of that, that meant that other market makers could then not cash out. They were stressed and they were pressed in order to make their profit. Basically, Wintermute scalped everybody. So when that happened, the market started to correct to the downside, because now other liquidity providers, other market makers, they now have to catch up to Wintermute. And you might be asking yourself, why do they have to catch up to Wintermute? Why can't they just hodl until it goes back up? Well, because they're the ones that make it go back up. They're the ones that buy. They're the ones that move the markets. That's why they're called market makers. They're the ones that provide the liquidity. You go to them and you provide liquidity to them and you make money off of that. I mean, that's how it works. So they need to make money. So they're going to be working on making money. So since then, you've seen them every day selling off. Every time we get these massive dips, they're accumulating a ton, because the number of long-term or the number of large holders continues to increase. So they're doing their portion. They're continuing to sell off onto the market. And remember, some of these guys have been holding some of their Bitcoin for years and years and years and years and years. So, they got it at a supreme discount. Okay. So their money is, they're making money. Don't you worry about these guys. They're making plenty of money. Now, problem is, Wintermute got way ahead of the game, is basically what this came down to. Wintermute on this day right here, right there, they scalped everybody, which led to, remember Jane Street. Every day I say Jane Street is just a big sell-off. Every single day we get that Jane Street money coming down. What happens on the 1 hour right there? On the 1 hour right there, we had, where is it? Right there, 9 o'clock, Jane Street. 7 o'clock, Wintermute. Right there, 9 o'clock, Jane Street. 1700, right there. No, it's 1900, right there. Wintermute. They're just dumping on the market constantly and consistently, trying to get more money. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure that they have enough liquidity in order to satisfy order book requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So what does that mean? Well, zooming back out, really, here's what I say. I would go low leverage if you are in fact doing it. Again, I would use KCEX. It's my preferred provider right now. You've had the dip down here to where the support was. Most likely rally is back up here. However, most likely rally also, let me do it from a trend line perspective, look at this. So we're getting this increasing level right there. So what if I told you that this looks like there's a breakout coming to 100,000? That over the next couple of days, we could see a move into the 100,000 range. If I were to Control Z my way back through time, then guess what? You would be seeing from me a chart, which I deleted. Remember, I had a bunch of stuff on this chart, but I ended up deleting it. Let me move over here. There it is. Wrong chart. It broke down below where it was before, but this trend line was coming back up. So what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to break back into this very quickly, and boom, we're heading up to 100,000. Does not mean that we're going above 100,000, by the way. Doesn't mean that we don't go down to 75,000 first. Doesn't mean any of that. But it does mean that I suspect that we're going to see a rally from this, and we're going to see a bounce again from this. Now, if you're asking yourself, well, how's that going to happen? Well, from this little bounce right here, we got these moves right here. Then we got a little bit of a dip back down, and then we got another rip back up there to 97,000. Well, I suspect that based on the way this is lining up right here, based on hopefully, these big wicks showing that that is a symbol of reversal, by the way. So if we get this big wick and we get a break back up into the range, not a rejection from the range, but a break back into that range, then that rally is going to be on. That's going to be 91. Then we're going to hit 93, and then that's when we might see that dip come back down. That would correspond to this move right here, and then we get that lower dip, and then boom, we start to break out to 100,000. So I do think that 100,000 is on the docket, if you will. And it's that first move right there. That first move right there gets us back into the range. And again, with that impulse right there, that takes us back to 93,000. That closes that CME futures gap. Then we start targeting whatever comes next. And then you get that breakdown back here to 90,000 one more time. Then you get that range move up to 100,000. So 100,000, I think, is still in the pipeline. I am concerned. I'm not saying that I'm not because of this breakdown right here. It's nice when we have these upward trends. Upward trends, by the way, don't last very long and don't usually go back upwards. If you look at it from this context and you see that upward trend right there, break down. Now you see upward trend, break up, downward trend, break up, downward trend, break up. It's when it's an upward trend that you lose something, because you're trying to push it higher, you're trying to push it higher, and then there's some nerds out there. By the way, I recorded everything this morning for all of my channels. You know, I have multiple channels now. I recorded everything for my channels this morning, muted. So once I get done with this, I have to go back and I have to redo everything. Unbelievable. What a horrible, awesome day. Chuckles Page says, what's up? Crypto is air. Yeah. Penguin says, I am tired, over leveraged, I guess starting to get really impatient, but hodling. Just tell me we will see all-time highs all over the market before the summer. I don't know that to be the case. I know that that should be the case. I know that what we should say is, oh, by the way, Penguin, yes, I have a Chicago Bears channel, which looks like this right here. I think you guys can see that. So I have a Chicago Bears channel. And then I have a fitness channel that I just started a couple days ago. The only thing that I've done so far is I made a post on X to let people know that I have the channel. And if you guys are interested, I'll actually show it to you real quick. 13 months ago, this was my 300. You guys got to see this, actually. So this is Believes in Fitness. All right. And I'm just going to, let me see here. What do I do here? Boom. 13. I don't know how to expand it. I don't know. Anyway, let me know if you can hear it. Here, I'm going to turn it all the way up so that you guys can hear it as best possible. Or at least I can hear. 15 months ago, this was my 360-pound bacon cheeseburger with French fry eating, pizza, deep dish, obviously, chubby buddy self, okay? And in the last 13 months, I have lost 135 pounds to 225 pounds. I'm going to take you on my journey. And the end of my journey is not even here yet. But guess what? I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm going to tell you everything that I did, everything that happened with me and for me. And if you can duplicate these efforts, then guess what? You too can lose a whole bunch of body fat and get yourself very fit before the next year comes. It's Christmas time, bro. Let's get after it. All right, so I started a fitness channel. Then I made a whole bunch of different shorts. Now, the only thing that I'm doing at this point is shorts, and I posted this one on X.
Hey yo, I know I've had my fair share of hard times in this life, and I'm pretty sure you have too. So let's change that. Check it. I've been around since the 80s and wasn't always cool, especially with the ladies. I was a damn fool. Dad was an alcoholic. Mama, she had to leave him.
So anyway, if you guys are interested, believes in fitness, you can follow my journey on getting healthy and getting lean if you care about that at all. Now, Dow Jones down 226 points. Let's move on to some different projects here. Again, we're looking at yesterday. I gave you that there would be a breakdown potentially. There's two ranges that I gave you that we could go up to this range right here, or we could go down back to this range right here for another test. And it looks like we're going down for that other test. Now, in the event that we still mint a higher low right here, we're still kind of bullish, even in that overall bearish macro. And also, it should be noted that we're in that time of the day right now where everybody is, this is your sort of risk sell-off moment. So let's look at that. Ethereum, if you're trying to bid, I would set a bid at like 2650, something in that range, just in case you get an opportunity. If you're already holding, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you have an opportunity to scalp that down at 2650 in that range, then that might not be a bad idea. I would also look at that long-term sort of trend that we had over here, which will end up being, when we look at it from this standpoint right here, we're actually at that range right there. So downward movement would take us all the way down to like 1800. So yeah, this seems to be the right spot right here, 2650. So set a bid at 2650 for some massive upward momentum. By the way, again, this market could continue to break down. Like we're, a couple days ago we were over 3 trillion market cap. Today we're at 2.8 trillion market cap. So what do we know? Also, we were at 4 trillion market cap just a couple short months ago. So it's a massive, massive loss for crypto. And again, all of this stuff happened while the market is still ripping. Oh, and by the way, when I speak of ripping, it was M2 money supply. That was what we wanted to look at a little bit earlier. And guess what? We've been talking about this forever. Look how it broke down. Like this was, we were on track. Let me go to Bitcoin for that. We were on track for an absolute banger, right? We were lockstep. Remember I kept telling you guys we were in lockstep with everything right here. When we had the peaks, we had the peaks. When we had the valleys and the peaks, we had that. We had the dip right here. We had the dip right. Everything was playing out to perfection until October 10 right there. And that's when the entire market got absolutely screwed. And now it's continued to flow up higher, 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 higher. And the fact that we're not moving along with money supply is very, very weird. And it speaks to exactly how horrible it was for Wintermute to stab you guys in the back the way that they did. So, but that's where we are. Solana. Solana kind of stuck where it was and didn't break down like the rest of it. Let's do that. Boom, boom, boom. So I said that that's going to be our relief little area right there. Solana kind of holding up pretty good on this range. Now, don't like this because low, oops, low, low, low. That's bearish. So a break back up and above to reestablish a little bit of confidence is what we really need. before establishing another low. We're establishing new lows. That's not a great sign. So I'd be watching for Solana. I don't think it's going to break down. I think it's going to have, I think we're timed for a massive correction, okay? 2 months ago or a month ago, we had Raul Paul. We had all the people who are watching liquidity saying that it looks like that we've flushed everything out, okay? Now, let's take that back and let's go back a step to when was that? Well, that was over here in December. And guess what? We're right near that December level again. Now, they're focused on Bitcoin. Bitcoin went back down to the spot that November 21st, which is where they started talking about, it kind of looks like the bottom is in. We could go down one more time. We could go a little bit lower. But ultimately, I think that there's a reversal that's being worked out right now. And that still kind of jives with the way the market looks. So ultimately, I think we're in an uptrend, we're going to be in an uptrend. This right here should alarm you a little bit. XRP absolutely collapsed while it wasn't showing any strength right here. I was hoping, or holding on to $1.82. Once you break below, then you're starting to get people who are getting a little bit nervous. And the other thing is right there, the tip of that, the bottom of that, $1.65. $1.65 seems like a good place to put a bid. Link is breaking down to, again, this level right here. I mean, you got to assume that they're going to finish these moves, by the way. This just broke. Remember I said bullish momentum, bullish momentum, bullish momentum. Ultimately on Chainlink, well, that breakdown right there, that ended the bullish momentum. So the breakdown to 987 right there seems almost confirmed. Maybe we get a strong bounce off of that, but I suspect we're probably going to see some downward momentum to that range. We got BitTensor down 3%. Again, same thing, breaking down below the range, breaking down off of those spots that we want that bounce to come from to establish confidence. But we wick down to this previous level. I would look for a break above back in here if we're going bullish. If not, then $157, you're next. Not much you can do about it either. ICP 302. I think ICP wants to run. Like I kept feeling like ICP is looking for another breakout. Just when I look at it right now, it seems like it's kind of like the charts for ICP, despite never being at the 500, was it launch at $500 or something like that? Like it launched at a crazy number. But it looks like every single time you get these breakdowns, you get the little sideways action, then you get these enormous spikes, right? Well, that's what we got the last time too. That was, by the way, January of 2026. So that's not, it's not the right spot there. But I mean, look at that breakout from November. We had the breakout from November. This was October 10. This was Wintermute. Went from $4 all the way down to $1.79. After that $1.79, we accumulated a little bit, and then boom, it just had a massive run all the way up to almost $10 with an AI rally coming right around the time that we got NVIDIA earnings. Let's do this. When we're NVIDIA earnings dates. February 25 is when we get the next NVIDIA earning, which means for me that I would think that we're going to start seeing a rally in AI if earnings estimate. Okay, so consensus, strong performance with 4.69 per share. Revenue, $213 billion. They're expected to have a huge report. That's great for AI and AI investment. So you probably are going to see, let's see what the NVIDIA earnings were. When was the last in the past? November 19. Okay, so that's the date right there. November 19 is the date that we got the last NVIDIA earnings. Okay, and by the way, that's not right, but okay. Yeah, November 19 was when we got the earnings. November 19 earnings. Again, let's go back into this and let's see, when did this start happening? At the end of October, ran all the way up until 10 days before NVIDIA earnings. And NVIDIA earnings, by the way, even though they were good, remember we had that breakdown where they said that the market was like we were pricing, it was all messed up. Something was wrong, and that AI was overvalued, et cetera, et cetera. So then we started to see that breakdown. But that run up right there, that's crazy. It went from $3, where we are right now, to $9, almost $10. And if we were to go back long term, can we establish a long-term trend line? We sure as shit can. Now, long-term trend line says that not going to go nearly as high as before, but if we were to start that breakout right now, just like it did before, within a couple days, we could be at $6.50. So if you don't have any ICP, you might want to get some ICP. I'm not saying that it's going to break out. I'm saying that when we get these, we get this sideways action chop, and then boom. We get this sideways action, and then boom. We get this sideways action, and then boom. So now expect a little sideways action, and then boom. So great opportunity to accumulate right now, in my opinion, on ICP. Avalanche down to $10.93. I mean, again, same thing. Like it broke down below where we would expect to see a bounce. Trump meme coin. Guess what? I mean, you can't even call it any better than this. I gave you that trend line a couple days ago when we were talking right here, and it just bounced off of that, and it bounced strongly off of that. I don't think that I think there's going to be some questions about the Trump meme coin going forward. So I do think it's going to be the first one to 100 billion, but you never know. Near protocol, breaking down. We're not going to worry about that too much. Ondo broke down to, Ondo broke down to exactly where I told you it was going to go. And then it got bought. Like, guys, if you set bids, when I give you these green lines, if you set bids right here, these are short-term scalping profitable opportunities. And if the market goes bullish, then you could have, like, it could be like just game changing. Same thing over here on Pendle. What I don't like is short-term right there. What I don't like is a little bit longer term, still kind of right there. Like it's still sort of breaking down and continuing a trend of breakdown. But every time we get down into these ranges, we get a nice little relief rally and a spike. So again, Pendle probably spikes to 238 over the next couple of days. SWE, same thing, bouncing off of the range. Let's talk about Dev real quick. Dev, I asked Grok what Grok thought. Grok said that it thinks that Dev is about to bounce back up to right there at 20 cents. It says that, you know, the fundamentals, the dump, the way that it's all structured leads it to believe that it will have a significant sort of spike. Definity had a sell-off yesterday. So I suspect that we're going to see another big move coming soon. Again, the market kind of pulls. And by the way, Definity, just like Dev, is paired with Ethereum. So it is the responsibility of these developers to do something. But when you look at it overall, Definity being down, I mean, everything in the Ethereum ecosystems are down. So it's because some of this is because of the pairing. By the way, Fiat is back down to 10 cents again. This means this is your signal. Like I tell you every time, if you go down to 1 penny on Fiat, you might want to buy yourself a little bit of it. By the way, I'm going to have Tom Anderson on. I don't know what date we're going to launch the video, but I'm going to be recording it with him on February the 4th. So once I get that done, once I get that edited, you'll be able to see it yourself. But buy some Fiat like right now. And by the way, it doesn't mean that it's not going to go down. Doesn't mean that you're not going to see some dramatic downward momentum or downward pressure. But if you just kind of zoom back out and you look at it, every time it comes down into this range, and it does it over and over and over and over again, then it usually likes to spike back up into that 15 range, goes back up here to that 22 sort of range, right here, long term, right there, over and over and over and over and over again. So right there, this is where you are. This is where I expect you're going to be very quickly. Now, with that, this Tom Anderson interview is going to give a lot of public information about Fias and allow him an opportunity to explain to people exactly what's going on with it and why he's so bullish on it and why he's investing so much effort and energy into this new thing of his. So it's a really good opportunity to accumulate, guys. I wouldn't sleep on Fias over the next little while. Doesn't mean that it's not going to break down. Just means that it doesn't look like it. Now, Bitcoin ETF, we already talked about. Fear and greed is down to 16. Liquidity, I mean, we can just kind of throw this out at this point. It's just the market is absolutely hunting and seeking all of these. And guys, I hate to say this, but because this is such a leveraged market, because everybody is now a gambler instead of an investor, this is the consequence of that. When you start to go long and you start to put millions of dollars into your bets every day, then the markets come after you. And that's what's happening right now. The markets are absolutely coming after everybody. It's what's happening. As far as total, let's see, the DEX volumes here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 billion still. So minimal numbers. So anyway, back to it now. Again, Definity, the reason that I'm bullish here is, don't forget, Midnight is breaking down. Midnight is their partner. They're going to figure this out at some point soon. Cardano is the parent company of Midnight in some fashion. Charles Hoskinson runs both of them. So some opportunity. Now let's get into, real quick, we're going to come down here. We're going to skip a few of these. By the way, Lunk is having a little bit of a relief rally. USTC is having a little bit of a relief rally. Now, I sold all my USTC and converted it to USTR. If you want to do that, you can do that. Follow Leonardo Lunk. Anyway, gold. Look at gold. There's a 4,600 right here. Looks like a futures gap. I'm not sure if that is a futures gap or not. Looks like it. But that would mean that we probably get at least filled there before we rally or continue. But look at that massive safe haven dump that happened over here. And by the way, don't forget about silver. Silver is breaking down as well. Like, this is a massive, massive sell-off. And at first, this felt good, okay? Because it felt like, yes, we're going to get a nice little rotation into crypto, right? But we're down 2% on the day. Stable coins were only up 1.6%. Now, if you get a pure rotation into stables, or if you get that, then you should see the market move positive. And we're not seeing the market move positive yet. So without stables, the market's down 2.16% versus 1.9%. So we're seeing some stable coins come into the market, which is good, because that means that the buyers are stepping in and they're stabling everything in order to make their buys. But it also means that they're probably looking for and they're hunting to try to find that spot for entry. And I don't see anything really ripping. Manta is moving up 7%. Jupiter's up 2%. Pi is up 2%. Synthetics is up 2.5%. OG, that's the zero gravity, is up 13% on the day. It doesn't matter unless you bought the bottom, but it's up 13% on the day. And then you have Seeker. Seeker is almost down to where I said, set your buy at a penny. Did you get a buy at 1.5 cents? Amit, if you are out there, I hope you got it at 1 penny. I hope you got, I hope you got it right there. I said, by the way, Amit came to me the other day. We were talking about Seeker, trying to figure out where it was going to go. And I said, it's going to go down to a penny at least. And it's at 1.5 cents so far, sitting at 1.8 right now. When we had this conversation, it was sitting at 5 cents. So the market is the market. You know what I mean? TRWA. Let's pop TRWA. Let's do crypto. All right, let's look at TRWA. What is it? Been loading up TRWA, long shot. All right, that's the crypto cap. That's not the actual crypto. I need a contract address for this one. MEXC. Okay, never mind. I got one on MEXC. There we go. Oh, God. Shit. Okay, well, first of all, just like anything else, it can go down even further than it is right now. If you look at it from this context, like you finally got that. Ask yourself if the market's ready for this kind of pump. And I don't think that it is, but I mean, it's trending downward. Even at the top, it's trending downward, which most likely means, and it's sitting at the bottom of the range. If you were going to buy, if you had decided for yourself, you're like, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to buy some of this. I would say that this is the spot to buy because zooming in on this frame, you are at the bottom of the range. Let's go up
Terra Casino.
into this one right here. Get into the range right there. All right. So you're bearish overall. And let's pop that up. You just bounced off of the range right there. Likely scenario is a move right there, which is a 2x, by the way. So if you get up or get close enough to the top of that range, then I would take I would not hold on to this because it is going back down. Let me zoom that a little bit better. It's an aggressive pattern. It only breaks out so much. But a good move right there. If you get a 2x off of this, I would sell this in a heartbeat. I would not hold on to this at all. It just doesn't make any sense. And then, by the way, I don't know what TRWA means or is or anything like that. Let's go over to if it's just there we go, USDC. Tharwa. Is it Tharwa or is it this one right here? This one right here. So let's see. Tharwa, 2 financial systems, 1 protocol, institutional grade treasury infrastructure for global and Islamic finance markets. Deploy capital across stablecoins. Pendle, Gate. You know what? As websites go, looks pretty good. Capital is automatically deployed. Listed on Uniswap, Gate, and MEXC. So we are in the right spot. THUSD, WTHUSD. They got an entire ecosystem here. So I'm going to change my opinion here and say that everybody should buy a little bit of this. Just to see it run back up to the top of that range. Again, we zoom in. And we start looking at it from that range, and we see in this that we're still we're in a bearish pattern, but we're at the bottom of the bearish pattern. So this would be a great opportunity to take a risk, if you're taking a risk, back up to the top of that range. And we're going to add this to the watch list and see if we don't get that over the next 48, 72 hours. So there we go. And that's it. We made it through. Now, where are we at in the market? Down $55 billion on the day. The Dow Jones is down 230 on the day. Around midday, noon, 1 o'clock, we should see a direction. If it's not going to be another dump, we'll see some direction. We're in the early part. We're at Jane Street o'clock, where the liquidity makers are using, they're using 7 p.m. at night, Central Standard Time, they're using 8 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Eastern are their dump priority spots. It's when their markets are open for trading and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to help me, believes in fitness. If you are a Chicago Bears fan, believes in Chicago, where again, most of my time is spent over there doing that because it just gets me a lot of engagement, and it's a money making, it's a money making thing. So we'll see what happens, but